Discover the incredible love story that will change your life forever, revealed after 10 years. In the rolling hills of rural Nebraska, Sarah's life had become a tangible collage of grief and resilience. Widowed young, she woke before dawn to start her day, the shadows of her late husband still lingering in every corner of their modest home. Whispers of hero and sacrifice followed her like a shadow, words too heavy, not enough to fill the spaces he left behind. Yet, amid the heartache, Sarah poured herself into her spirited 10-year-old son Ethan. Each drawing he hung on their walls spoke volumes. Rockets soaring, horses running free, and a family together under a glowing sun. They were dreams born from innocence and love, a constant reminder of a future brighter than their present. The small town stood like a watchtower over their lives. With every sympathetic glance, Sarah felt the weight of unspoken judgment. Gritting her teeth, she kept her chin up while juggling 2 jobs, at the local diner and grocery store, determined to build a life for Ethan. Each shift left her exhausted, but it was Ethan's laughter that fueled her spirit, making the long days worthwhile. Next door, Greg, a rugged mechanic with warm brown eyes, worked tirelessly in his father's old repair shop. He admired Sarah's strength from a distance, captivated by her courage. Greg bore his own burdens, often overlooked by those who judged him too quickly because of his worn-out jeans and grease-stained hands. But he saw beauty in the struggle. He too held dreams deep inside, dreams that mirrored Sarah's ones of acceptance and true belonging. One quiet evening, as Ethan raced his bicycle down the driveway, Sarah and Greg found themselves caught in a moment. Their laughter, light and clear, danced through the evening air. Their shared understanding of sacrifice and heartache connected them in a way neither had anticipated. The fence that separated their yards faded away, tethers of circumstance unbinding as friendship blossomed into something deeper. Yet whispers wound their way through the community like autumn leaves caught in the wind. What will people think? Sarah often pondered, but hope bloomed in the spaces between them, fueling a flame of transformative love. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as they began to believe in their dream, a devastating storm swept through the town, floods raging and washing away homes. As the water rose, Sarah and Greg worked side by side. Their bond forged in adversity, strengthened by a shared sense of purpose, they became beacons of hope in a community that was rapidly falling apart. Each act of compassion they performed revealed the biases hidden beneath the town's surface, igniting a fiery passion to fight for justice. When Greg's courageous act to rescue a trapped family exposed buried truths about their pasts, their love faced the ultimate test. Town meetings erupted into battlegrounds of opinion, dividing their neighbors as secrets surfaced. In that moment of chaos, Sarah held tightly to Ethan's small hand. Together, they watched the clouds lift, revealing a sunset glowing with golden hues, a symbol of hope amidst despair. But as she turned to Greg, questions loomed heavy. Could their love, shaped by resilience, truly change their worlds? The stakes had never been higher, and the path ahead promised nothing but trials. Would their fragile connection endure against the storm? The days following the storm were a mix of exhaustion and determination. Sarah found herself slipping into a new rhythm, one that balanced grief and rebuilding. Each morning brought new challenges as the town worked to recover, but resilience blossomed among her neighbors. There was a palpable sense of community, a reminder of what could be achieved when everyone came together. Yet, with every sunrise, Sarah felt the weight of her heartache pushing down on her. Each kindness from Greg stirred something deep within her, a forbidden hope. She often found herself stealing glances at him as they worked side by side at the community center, organizing supplies and helping families sift through what was left of their lives. He tackled each task with a can-do attitude, and his laughter instilled a warmth that felt foreign but welcome. One afternoon, while sorting through donations, Sarah overheard a couple of women whispering in the corner. "Can you believe she's south getting close to him?" One said. the disdain dripping from her words. Sarah's stomach twisted. She wanting so badly to shake off their judgment, but it clung to her like the humid air after the rain. She couldn't deny how much Greg meant to her. He understood her struggle. Yet she also feared for him. Would the town's scorn affect him too? Ethan, oblivious to the gossip swirling around them, seemed to thrive in the excitement of the recovery efforts. He helped his mom sort clothes, all the while dreaming of adventures to come. "Can you be my sidekick?" he asked Greg one day when they found him uprooting branches at the park. Greg knelt and smiled wide, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I'd be the best sidekick there ever was, buddy." As summer stretched into sultry afternoons, sparks began to fly between Sarah and Greg, subtle at first, a lingering touch, a shared look laced with vulnerability. Each moment felt like walking on a tightrope, their hearts swaying in the balance. And yet, they continued to draw closer together, weaving their lives like threads in a tapestry that told a story of healing. One evening, as the light dipped and painted the world in soft pastels, Sarah found herself standing on her porch, lost in thought. She watched Ethan play and felt an ache in her heart for something she dared not voice. Greg stepped up beside her, his presence soothing the turmoil swirling within her. "It feels different now," he murmured, nodding toward the vibrant glow of the sunset. "Yeah, it does," she replied, fighting the torrent of emotions threatening to spill over. There was something so comforting about Greg's steadfastness, but also frightening. Would letting him into her heart mean sacrificing the safety she had built for Ethan? "Do you think we'll ever feel normal again?" Greg's question lingered, echoing her own fears. Sarah turned to him, her heart racing. His eyes searched hers, longing and uncertainty mingling in the air between them. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "But maybe we could find a new normal together." Just then, a loud crash broke the evening stillness. They turned to see the remnants of an old tree crashing down, narrowly missing a row of houses. Panic erupted in the neighborhood as everyone rushed to check on each other, fear and adrenaline igniting a fire of urgency among the community. In that instant, Sarah knew they were still at the mercy of their choices, their connection hanging in the balance. But as she felt Greg's hand slip into hers, they shared a moment of fierce resolve. Perhaps love was worth the risk, the chance to fight for joy against all odds. But before she could voice that thought, tension flooded the air, and Sarah's heart raced with questions. As the sirens blared in the distance, she felt a dawning realization: how much longer could they protect this fragile bond before the storms of their past caught up to them? With uncertainty tethered tightly to her chest, she whispered, "What if this isn't just about us anymore?" The sirens wailed and echoed through the air, a stark reminder that danger still lurked even in their attempts at rebuilding. Sarah's grip tightened on Greg's hand, feeling an urgency in the chaos around them. The neighbors gathered, some scurrying, others yelling to account for everyone. Sarah's heart raced not just from the panic, but from the weight of what had just been set into motion through her whispered words. What if this isn't just about us anymore? Sank even deeper than she anticipated. It felt as if the ground beneath her feet had shifted. She had been so focused on her feelings for Greg, so wrapped up in the spark that had ignited between them. But now, faced with an uncontrollable situation, her responsibility as a mother surged forward. "Come on," Greg urged, his voice steady amid the chaos. He squeezed her hand lightly before letting go. "Let us help those who might need it." As they rushed toward the street, Sarah spotted Ethan, his small frame darting through the crowd with wide eyes and excitement. "Mom, did you see that?" he shouted, his voice filled with a mix of fear and exhilaration. "Ethan," she called, waving to him. Relief washed over her as he scrambled toward her. She dropped to one knee, pulling him close, feeling his heart racing in her grasp. At that moment, all she could think of was protecting him, the fierce love swelling like a warm hug. Greg joined them, his brow furrowed but his smile still strong. "You okay, buddy?" he asked, crouching to Ethan's level. "Yeah. It was cool. Everyone's helping." Once the initial shock faded, they found themselves at the forefront of the action. The community was banding together, like a well-oiled machine fueled by adrenaline. People lunged into the fray, assessing damage, clearing the debris, and offering help where needed. In the face of adversity, there was something beautiful about the way everyone came together. As Sarah worked alongside Greg, sifting through branches and debris. She felt his presence beside her, a steady force. She watched as he rallied a group of kids to help gather up stray twigs and branches, exchanging laughter and light-hearted jibes. It warmed her, a spark igniting hope in her heart. What if she caught herself thinking, what if this is that new normal we keep talking about? The tasks at hand turned into little victories as they cleared the park. Every laugh shared, every hand held, every moment spent working next to him, chipped away at the walls Sarah had built around her heart. But even as the sun set behind the colors of dusk, a nagging unease lingered in the back of her mind, too. As much as she relished these moments, she couldn't ignore the judgmental glares that darted in their direction. The town had dealt with a lot, and Sarah's budding feelings for Greg weren't going unnoticed. That night, after the flurry of activity calmed, Sarah watched Ethan drift off to sleep, his peaceful face tucked beneath the covers. A knot formed in her throat as she thought of their future. Greg had become more than a friend, he was a part of her world. But there was still so much uncertainty. Sarah? Greg's voice cut through her thoughts, and she turned to see him standing in the doorway, the last light of day casting him in silhouette. Can we talk? The weight of their unspoken words loomed in the air. Sarah's heart pounded, fear and hope mingling as she nodded. As he stepped into the room, all Sarah could think was that a decision loomed ahead. Their connection, so real and powerful, could shift everything, and maybe not just for them. What if this is bigger than we can handle? She thought, dread swirling in her stomach. And as their eyes met, she could only wonder, what would it take to make this leap together? As soon as the door clicked shut, the room felt small, charged with an energy that made Sarah's heart race. Greg's expression was serious, but his eyes held that familiar warmth she had grown to cherish. Sarah, he began, his voice steady but laced with emotion. I know things have been chaotic. Yeah, she replied, feeling the weight of her emotions rising to the surface. But everything feels different now. He moved closer and took a seat on the edge of her bed, looking earnestly into her eyes. I don't want to complicate things with Ethan. He needs stability, and this situation, it's so unpredictable. Sarah's stomach tightened. She could hear the doubt in his voice. But Greg, that's exactly why we should be honest with each other. About everything. Silence hung between them for a moment, thick and unresolved. She thought of the future, of Ethan navigating a world still reeling from the aftermath, and of her own heart pinned between fear and the undeniable bond she shared with Greg. It's scary, she finally admitted, her voice breaking slightly. Being vulnerable. Opening myself up to someone again. I get it. Greg leaned forward, his eyes softening. I feel the same way. It's scary to care, to think about what we could be, but we're stronger together. And I want to help you through this. His words pierced through her doubts like a beam of light, illuminating possibilities she had dared not imagine. Yet, there was a lingering fear whispering in the back of her mind. What if they ventured deeper and found themselves lost? Before she could respond, Greg surged forward, his hand finding hers. Whatever we decide, I don't want you to feel like you have to navigate this alone. I truly care about you, about Ethan. About this new life we could build. The warmth of his hand ignited something within her. A flicker of hope buried under layers of anxiety. Her heart swelled. And for a moment, Sarah could picture this, a life where love and laughter filled the spaces where loss had once prevailed. But shadows of uncertainty still loomed. What if the town can't accept us? She asked, biting her lip. What if I'm dragging you into something you didn't sign up for? Who cares what they think? Greg's eyes sparkled, bold and unwavering. We're the ones that have to live our lives, not them. If we can handle a storm together, we can face anything. In that moment, Sarah felt a fierce connection. Something was shifting, and the barriers she had put up began to crumble. But the thought of judgment, of the townsfolk's whispers, clawed at her confidence. She took a deep breath, feeling tears well in her eyes. I want that, Greg. I really do. But I can't bear the idea of Ethan being hurt if it doesn't work out. Greg squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her swirling thoughts. We'll figure it out together. Price of entry might be high, but the rewards can be greater. You're not just risking this for a fairy tale, you're creating a future. As she stared into his eyes, Sarah knew he believed in her. In them. Yet doubts still rattled through her mind. What kind of love could emerge from this uncertainty? Resources in a small town could either unite or tear apart, and she felt caught in the middle. Just then, a crash echoed from outside. A sudden reminder that the night was still alive with chaos. They both jumped, sharing a startled glance, and the moment slipped away, a reminder of the world's unpredictable nature. Sarah stood, pulling her hand free. Let us see what that was. Maybe it's just the wind? Greg's brow knitted with concern as he got up beside her. Let us not worry. We can take this step by step. Together. Stepping outside, the cool night air hit her, filled with distant screams of laughter and clanking tools, the community still rallying together under the moonlight. As they reached the doorway, hesitation gripped her heart once more. Back into the fray of humanity, back to the whirlwind of connections. Yet beneath all the apprehension and uncertainty, an ember of courage flickered to life in Sarah's chest. But was this indeed the turning point she hoped for, or just another step into the unknown? And as she stepped into the light, a familiar child's laughter rang through the night, urging her to choose between the comfort of fear or the impending promise of love. What awaited them when the morning light broke? The laughter bounced around like a playful breeze, stirring memories that danced in her mind. Just moments ago, she was locked in a whirlwind of emotions with Greg, and now, as they stepped into the night, a sense of community swept over her. The street was alive, laughter intertwined with the smell of barbecue wafting through the air. Neighbors were gathered, their voices overlapping in a gentle hum of companionship. For a moment, she felt herself relax, the warmth of belonging wrapping around her like a blanket. This is nice, Greg said, his eyes scanning the crowd, a soft smile on his lips. Yeah, Sarah agreed, though her heart still beat uneasily within her. It felt familiar, yet different, an undercurrent of hope hiding beneath trepidation. Let us grab some food, he said, motioning toward the grill at the end of the street. Steam and the sound of sizzling drawing crowds like moths to a flame. As they walked toward the grill, Sarah's mind buzzed with thoughts. The tightness in her chest persisted. What if whispers followed them? What if the judgment she feared was more real than the warmth of Greg's hand 15 minutes ago? Greg must have sensed her tension because he leaned closer, his voice low and reassuring. Hey, no matter what, I'm here. Just look at how everyone is enjoying themselves. Let us join them. His reassuring words gave her a spark of courage, and she nodded, allowing him to lead the way. Each step brought them closer to the community, the people who would either accept or reject their unspoken love. As they reached the grill, Ethan came bounding toward them, his face glowing with joy, a little hot dog clutched in his fist like a trophy. Mum. Greg. He shouted, energy practically bursting from him. Seeing him like this made Sarah's heart swell. Here was the reason for her every decision, her son, her priority. She knelt to hug him tightly, inhaling the comforting scent of his shampoo mixed with barbecue smoke. Hey there, buddy. Are you having fun? She asked, pulling back to meet his wide, expressive eyes. Yeah. Everyone's playing. Can we go after I eat? Ethan jumped on his tiptoes, excitement radiating. Of course. Just eat your food first, she said, stealing a glance at Greg, who watched Ethan with an affection that sent warmth blooming in her chest. Greg's eyes met hers, and he smiled, filling her with a surge of courage. They were creating a new life, right here, in this moment, surrounded by laughter, acceptance, and hope. But then a sharp voice cut through her moment of peace. Well, if it isn't the lonely woman and her mystery man. Sarah turned, the color draining from her face as she recognized Mrs. Carver, the neighbor known for her sharp tongue. Everything all right, Sarah? The older woman asked, tone dripping with faux sweetness. Yeah, just enjoying the party, Sarah replied, forcing a smile, her heart thudded with anxiety. Is that so? Mrs. Carver said, her voice lowering conspiratorially. Word travels fast, you know. People are curious about you too. Greg stiffened beside her, but Sarah squeezed his hand, grounding herself. People will talk. And some might say you're setting a bad example, Mrs. Carver continued, a smirk playing at her lips. Without thinking, Sarah stepped forward. And some might say it's none of your business. The words were out before she could reconsider them. A taut pause filled the space between them, a look shared between Sarah and Greg, eyes wide with surprise. Mrs. Carver's mouth fell open in shock, and the sounds of the party dimmed momentarily as people turned toward the confrontation. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks. Fear and resolve swirled inside her like a storm. She had spoken, and now the weight of the moment sat heavy on her shoulders. Would this push people away? Would doubt take root in her heart? "Let us go, Ethan. We'll find a place to sit down," Greg said, breaking the tension. He gently guided her and Ethan away, but Sarah's heart raced, the encounter haunting her with uncertainty. Did I in the midst of shadows cast by judgment? A flicker of hope remained. If she could stand firm today, could she face more storms ahead? As the three of them moved toward the brighter lights, Sarah's thoughts raced. Was it truly possible to forge a new beginning in this place filled with both love and gossip? And as the laughter resumed around them, pulling them back into the warmth of the gathering, she couldn't shake the feeling that more challenges awaited. Would they weather the storm together, or would the fear of the past rise up to claim them again? Ethan tugged at Sarah's hand, his laughter bright against the backdrop of murmurs and whispers. He was oblivious to the tension that had momentarily clouded the evening. All he wanted was to be part of the fun, to run and play like other kids. "Can I get a soda?" he asked, innocent eyes wide with excitement. "Sure, buddy. But let us find a quieter spot first," Sarah responded, glancing nervously back at Mrs. Carver, who stood at the grill, her gaze still fixed on them. The warmth of the party felt distant, a stark contrast to the chill that climbed Sarah's spine. A cold reminder that not everyone welcomed their happiness. As they settled on a bench near the edge of the street, Sarah noticed Greg's gaze drifting to the group by the grill. He was deep in thought, fiddling with his hands. She could see the concern in his eyes and felt a pang of guilt for dragging him into this whirlwind of community scrutiny. "Are you okay?" she asked, placing a gentle hand on his arm. He turned toward her, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly, just thinking about how to respond. "I didn't expect that. I thought we were out of the woods." "Maybe we're not," she muttered. "I shouldn't have said that. It was impulsive." "No, it was brave," Greg countered softly. "People need to hear that you won't back down. It shows you mean it." A small smile flickered on her lips, but doubt still lingered. Was it truly bravery or just desperation? Ethan returned, 2 sodas clutched in his tiny hands, and set them on the bench triumphantly. "Mom. Look. I got one for you too." His enthusiasm was infectious, and Sarah felt her heart melt at his exuberance. "That's great, buddy. You're the best." She took the soda, his joy a temporary shield against the gossip swirling nearby. The laughter around them swelled again, and for a moment, they were enveloped by a warm bubble of happiness. But as Sarah looked around, she couldn't ignore the sideways glances from some neighbors. The tension crept back in, turning delight into anxiety. "Why did I even care what she thinks?" Sarah mumbled, frustration bubbling to the surface. "It shouldn't matter to me." Maybe Greg started, choosing his words carefully. "But it does. We're only human. It's natural to want acceptance, to want to fit in. Just remember, those who matter won't judge you for being happy." His words rested between them, a lifeline thrown into the swirling sea of her worries. Was he right? Could they find that acceptance? Somewhere nestled between acceptance and anxiety, a small flame of hope ignited. But then, a new figure stepped into view, a familiar and unwelcome presence. It was Kyle, one of the more vocal neighbors. His expression was smug as he approached, clearly primed for confrontation. "Well, well. I see our little rebellious couple is making waves," Kyle said, folding his arms and leaning slightly against the nearby fence. A few others from the crowd started to pay attention, eyebrows raised and smiles smirking. Some were amused, others plainly disapproving. Here it was again, the storm she had dreaded. Just when she thought they'd taken one step forward, could it really end like this? The laughter faded, leaving behind a heavy silence. "Isn't it a little embarrassing to flaunt your affair like this? Think of the impression it leaves on the kids, on everyone." "Really?" Kyle jabbed, the tension palpable. Sarah glanced at Greg, their eyes meeting in shared determination. She took a breath, mustering every ounce of courage she could find. "Actually, Kyle, I'm proud of who I love and how we've chosen to live our lives," Sarah shot back, her voice steady and unwavering. "If you can't handle that, then maybe you need to reevaluate your own life choices." Gasps came from the small crowd, surprised and curious. Silence hung thick in the air. As a new wave of tension washed over the gathering, Sarah felt exhilaration blossom in her chest. It was the first time she felt free from judgments and expectations. The way Greg's eyes sparkled at her gave her a sense of rightness, however fleeting. But could she really hold this ground? As Kyle's expression shifted from confidence to shock, she suddenly wondered what this might cost them. Could they face the backlash together? Or would the winds of judgment tear them apart? The night was alive with questions, the fireworks of connection battling the storms of disapproval. And in the heart of it all, Sarah stood ready to fight for what she wanted, but as shadows loomed larger, she knew their fight had truly just begun. What awaited them on this treacherous path of acceptance and love? The moments pressed on, thick with uncertainty. Kyle stood there, his bravado splintering, and Sarah could practically feel the eyes of the crowd burning into her. She had spoken her truth, and now, would they welcome it or push it away? Ethan, utterly unaware of the shifting atmosphere, reached over and grasped her hand, smiling up at her with that unfiltered joy only a child could possess. It grounded her just a little bit more, his innocence like a warm embrace. "What's going on, Mom?" he asked, tilting his head as though he could read the tension swirling around them. His question settled heavily in the air, and Sarah struggled to find words. Did she tell him the truth? That some people thought love could only come in certain shapes, that some loved less or were taught to fear love that didn't fit their expectations. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just talking to a friend," she finally replied, her voice steady. But the truth was far more complicated. Kyle snorted, breaking through the fragile calm. "A friend? Is that what you call this? This isn't a friendship, Sarah. This is a circus act." The crowd tensed again, a reaction that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. Someone from behind piped up, "You should be ashamed." Words like arrows aimed straight at her heart. "Shame has no place in love," Greg interjected, turning all his attention to Kyle. "Maybe you should consider that before you judge someone else's happiness." There was a moment of chaos within her, a storm against the calm she was trying to uphold. Sarah squeezed Ethan's hand tighter, pulling in a breath. The electricity in the air was palpable. The laughter from moments ago felt like a distant memory. This was a battleground, and her heart raced as she stood in the midst of it. "Why do you care so much?" Sarah challenged, her voice breaking through the background noise. It echoed not just to Kyle, but to everyone who had chosen to join him in this. "Why is it so hard for you to accept us as we are? What does our love have to do with you?" Silence. The kind of heavy silence that pressed against your chest. There was something powerful in her question that hung there, like a beacon of hope that maybe, just maybe, others would feel its weight. Kyle shifted uncomfortably but still held his ground. "Because you're promoting a lifestyle that doesn't belong here," he sneered. "Living authentically is not a lifestyle," Sarah replied, heart pounding with each word. "It's simply existing. And if you can't respect us for that, do you really think you're protecting our kids? Or just your own fragile ideals?" At that moment, a few neighbors turned their heads, exchanging glances. Was she winning them over? Or was it all falling apart around them? Ethan's small voice broke through. "Mom, let us go play." The innocence of his plea soared above the turmoil, and reached into her heart. He wanted nothing more than their joyful lives to be uncomplicated. "Okay, let us go," Sarah said softly, standing up and pulling Ethan close. But she didn't move away from Greg's side. Together, they faced the crowd as a united front. Kyle's snicker turned into a shout, "You'll see. You'll regret this." The threat hung like a storm cloud, daunting and intimidating. Sarah took a deep breath, the adrenaline coursing through her system. She wouldn't give in. They were stronger together. "I refuse to live in a world where my happiness is dictated by others," she declared, looking directly at Kyle. The fire inside her refused to die down. "You can try to scare us, but love isn't something that can be taken away." As they turned to leave, she could feel the crowd's shifting energy. Some began to murmur among themselves. What were they really discussing? Would they side with Kyle? Or was there hope for understanding? As they walked away, Ethan's laughter still ringing in her ears, Sarah's heart was heavy, yet buoyed by the connection she felt with Greg. But doubt settled in. Could they keep up this fight? What awaited them now that they had taken this stand? As they moved toward the playground, the questions lingered in the air, leaving Sarah to wonder how long it would take for the world to change, or if they had the strength to change it themselves. The playground was a cacophony of laughter, the joy of children ringing like music against the backdrop of lingering tension. Sarah held Ethan's hand tightly as they approached the familiar swings. She could feel the heat of the conflict trailing behind them like a storm cloud. But the moment Ethan's feet touched the sand, everything transformed. "Push me higher, Mom," Ethan shouted, his voice a mixture of excitement and exhilaration. She watched him scramble up to the swing, his little face lit with pure anticipation. And for a moment, the world around her faded, replaced by the simple happiness of her son. Sarah stepped behind him and began to push, her strength steady yet gentle. "Like this?" she asked, her heart lightening with each upward arc. Ethan squealed with delight, and in that exchange, a quiet calm settled in her chest. But just as she began to lose herself in the happiness of the moment, echoes of Kyle's threats seeped back into her mind. "You'll regret this." Those words loomed large, searching for her weakness. Just when she thought they had escaped the storm, it brewed anew in her thoughts. Greg came to stand beside her, his presence grounding. Doesn't he know what he's talking about?" he said, leaning casually against the swing set. "I know," she sighed, glancing at him, the tightness in her chest still lingering. "It's just hard not to take it to heart. Do they really believe love should fit in neat boxes? Does it matter what they think? What's real is right here." He gestured toward Ethan, who was now pumping his legs, laughter spilling from his mouth like sunshine. She smiled despite the heaviness. "You're right, Sarah." Greg's voice grew soft, drawing her gaze to him. "We can be that change. If we show Ethan how to love fiercely, without boundaries or shame, maybe he'll grow into a different world, a world where everyone is accepted." As they stood there, Sarah felt the truth of those words seep into her. It felt like armor. She was no longer just fighting for her love, but aiming to teach her son the power of that love even amidst adversity. "Do you really think people will change?" she asked, curiosity blooming despite her doubts. "Will hearts open up to embrace what they don't understand?" "Maybe not overnight," Greg replied, his voice steady. "But if we keep showing up, showing our truth, that's a start. Even the smallest act can ignite a spark." For the first time that day, Sarah dared to dream of a future where the storm clouds might dissipate. It was a flicker of hope mingled with uncertainty, a fragile thread binding her heart. Suddenly, a commotion erupted nearby, pulling her from her thoughts. A group of kids had gathered, animatedly discussing something. Her instincts kicked in, and she instinctively moved closer as she noticed Ethan at the center, bright-eyed and gesturing wildly. "What's happening?" she asked Greg, a growing unease pooling in her stomach. He turned to watch, his expression shifting to concern. Just then, Ethan bounded towards them, his face a mix of excitement and worry. "Mom, some kids want to talk about our family." Her heart raced. "What do they want to say, buddy?" "They say we shouldn't be together, that it's wrong." "Can I tell them it is okay to love?" His innocence cut deep, and Sarah felt the rush of fear and hope collide within her. "Yes, sweetheart," she whispered, her pulse quickening. "But are you ready for what that might bring?" Ethan nodded, unwavering. "I am. I want them to know." As he turned to approach the crowd, Sarah's breath hitched. This was it, the moment she had feared yet yearned for. The question remained, would this act of honesty build bridges, or would it ignite new conflicts? With a glance at Greg, she felt the stakes rise. They had stepped into the arena, but what would become of them next? Ethan took a step forward, his small frame vibrating with determination. Sarah's heart raced, caught between pride and panic. She could see the flickering interest on the faces of the other children, some curious, others skeptical. "What do you mean it's wrong?" Ethan asked, his voice clear and steady. "Love is love. It doesn't matter who you love." The gravity in his words was profound, and Sarah felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. Greg moved closer, positioning himself like a shield behind Sarah and Ethan. He was right. This was a moment of truth. But his presence was also a reminder of everything they faced together, a world still filled with judgment. As the other children processed Ethan's declaration, whispers flowed among them. Some stepped back, eyebrows raised in disbelief, while others leaned in, captivated by the bravery radiating from the boy standing firmly before them. "Yeah, but your mom and that guy, it's not normal," one boy asserted, crossing his arms defiantly. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, and Sarah felt her chest tighten. "No." Ethan's voice soared above the noise. "It's not wrong if it makes you happy." His passion flowed like energy, and something shifted in the air. A girl in the group stepped forward, hesitantly. "But I heard my mom say it was bad." She looked around, searching for support, and the boy who had scoffed earlier shifted uncomfortably. "That's just what they think. But that doesn't have to be true. Love is good, no matter who it's about," Ethan persisted, his little fists clenched at his sides. Sarah glanced at Greg, who wore a proud smile, and for a fleeting moment, she allowed herself to envision a shift in perception, a world softening its edges. "What about us?" Another child piped up, tilting his head. "Why can't we love whoever we want then?" The question hung in the air, a fresh spark igniting hope amidst the crowd. Ethan spun around to face them, his enthusiasm contagious. "Exactly. Why should anyone tell us who we can love? It's not just about being a boy and a girl." The indignant boy who had first interrupted visibly squirmed, glancing back at his friends, as if realizing they were collectively moving toward a new understanding. Sarah's heart swelled with a strange mixture of fear and hope. This was her son, fearlessly challenging biases she had grappled with in silence. Just as a small breakthrough seemed possible, an authoritative voice broke through the gathering perspective. "Ethan, come here." Kyle's commanding tone sliced through the air. Sarah's stomach twisted as she recognized the man who had haunted her thoughts. "What's going on here?" Kyle's eyes scanned the group, landing hard on Ethan, his expression clouded with irritation. "You know that's not how things work." Ethan held his ground, glancing at Sarah. In that instant, it was clear he recognized the weight of his words. The other kids backed away, eyes darting in uncertainty. "Let us just talk." "I don't want you to get in trouble," Ethan said, taking a step towards Kyle, instinctively seeking nothing but peace. "Trouble?" Kyle sneered, squaring his shoulders. "You have no idea what trouble really is." Sarah felt her breath hitch again. The presence of this man loomed, threatening everything they had built together. She stepped forward, propelled by a fierce love. "Kyle, he just wants to share love, to feel safe like everyone else. You need to let him." But as she opened her mouth, she realized that this confrontation was not just for Ethan's sake. It was for herself, too, a reclaiming of authority over her life, her truth, and her family's future. What would Kyle do? Would he fight back or listen? With tension thick in the air, the outcome of this dangerous dance hung in the balance. Would fear or love prevail in this heart-pounding moment? As Kyle squared his shoulders, Sarah felt her heart thunder. The air crackled with tension, and the children watched wide-eyed as if caught in a storm. "Ethan," Kyle scoffed, "you shouldn't be telling people how to live." His voice dripped with condescension, but Sarah saw how her son stood strong in his conviction. "Love is good," Ethan repeated, his little voice unyielding. "No, it's messy. You think that just because you say something, it makes it true?" Kyle snapped, looking around to gauge the crowd's reaction. "Actually, yes," Ethan replied, undeterred. "If love can be real for my mom and Greg, it can be real for everyone. It's not about what you think, it's about how you feel." The words hung in the air, a beacon of bravery shining through the chaotic murmur surrounding them. Sarah swelled with pride. Her little boy was stepping up, defying the odds laid against them. Hoping this moment could spark a shift, she moved closer to Ethan. "People don't always understand what love is," she added, stepping into the fray. "But the love between us, between all the families out there, matters. We all deserve to be happy." Kyle's smirk faltered for a moment, the challenge in Sarah's voice forcing him to reconsider. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, and Sarah could feel their thoughts churning like a tempest. "Maybe love is accepting each other, despite our differences," a girl piped up, emboldened by Ethan's courage. Sarah glanced around, surprised to see others nodding in agreement. The seeds of questioning were taking root, a glimmer of understanding blossoming in the uneasy space beneath the fading sun. "That's what I'm trying to say," Ethan exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. "We can love anybody. No rules against that." As Kyle opened his mouth to counter, Greg stepped forward, his demeanor calm yet assertive. You know, this isn't just about you or me. It's about kindness, about building a community that treats everyone fairly, without judgment. More murmurs spread through the crowd, sometimes supportive, sometimes uncertain. But the cracks in Kyle's facade were expanding, exposing fear and impatience. Is it so wrong to want people to be free to love? Greg pressed, his gaze steady. We're not harming anyone by building our future together. Love should be celebrated, not shunned. Their words felt tethered to the light shining down, allowing shadows of preconceived notions to slip away, even if just slightly. Sarah felt the stirring of change, resonant and vital. You know, maybe you should ask yourself why you're feeling threatened, Sarah continued, locking her gaze onto Kyle, a fierce resolve coursing through her. What is it that makes you so afraid of those who live differently? Kyle's bravado weakened as his brow furrowed, vulnerability flashing across his face. Before he could respond, a ripple of acceptance flowed through the crowd, the acceptance of the possibility of understanding. Just let him speak. Another child from the group shouted, emboldening others to step forward. We don't need to fight about this. The air shifted again. Let us talk about how we can support each other instead of tearing each other down. Someone called out, and the crowd began to murmur in agreement. Ethan watched in astonishment as laughter and camaraderie blossomed where moments before there was hesitation and fear. Joyful voices started to merge, and Sarah felt her spirit rise. This was what community was meant to feel like. Kyle glanced at Ethan, then at Sarah, his defenses wavering. I didn't mean, he stammered, his tone losing its edge. I know you didn't, but that doesn't mean we can't work towards something better. Right, Ethan? Ethan nodded vigorously, a bright smile lighting up his face. Yeah. We can be happy together no matter what. Kyle seemed torn, weighing his words carefully. Silence settled over the group, and Sarah felt the weight of hope pressing down, fighting against the storms of doubt. Maybe it's time for everyone to rethink what they know about love, he finally conceded, almost reluctantly. And just like that, the storm clouds began to ebb. Laughter erupted once more. Children began to play again while the adults exchanged animated whispers, reflecting on the unexpected turn of events. For the first time, Sarah could see acceptance glimmering in the eyes around them. You did it, buddy, Sarah whispered to Ethan as she knelt beside him, the proud smile on her face reflecting the sunshine that filled the park. As Ethan beamed back at her, Sarah held Greg's gaze, their hearts silently celebrating the moment. Together, they had weathered the storm and emerged victorious, not just for their love, but as champions of acceptance woven into the very fabric of their community. As they sat there, watching the happiness re-enter the crowd, Sarah felt an unshakable certainty this was just the beginning. In that beautiful, bittersweet moment filled with laughter and love, Sarah knew their fight for joy was far from over. But for now, they had turned the tide, proving that love could unify amidst a storm. And in the warm embrace of a small town, hope, however fragile, radiated from Ethan's laughter, Greg's steadfastness, and Sarah's fierce commitment, showing that together, they could forge a future bright with acceptance. Now was the time to build something special, to love fiercely, and embrace all that was yet to come. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could change your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your thumbs up really makes a difference. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment below what you thought about the ending, and let us know how it made you feel. Remember, only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.